Go ahead, Jody.
Okay. We're all on, right? We've got Debbie, we've got Melissa, and we have our special guest, Miss Gemma.
Hi, how you doing? This is Gemma Penna.
Hi, Gemma.
Hi, how are you all?
Welcome, and thank you for coming in today. Do we got Debbie and Melissa on the line?
Thank you so much for inviting me and expressing all the concerns that I have about our visitations, which is the main concern, especially on behalf of those mentally ill that they want to cut the visitation and have hugs from the family members are extremely important, especially in the mentally ill, for all of them. But mentally ill.
Let me interrupt you just for 1 second. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
We're going to get on with the introduction. I just wanted to make sure that Melissa and Debbie are both there, and just kind of announce that we are Moms on a Mission, or MOM. We're also affiliated with CBI, Citizens Bureau of Investigations, that is a committee currently that is formed of moms as well. We'll be talking about some hard topics that have to do with mass incarceration and the things that lead up into it. Currently in the state of Florida, the visitation schedule is up for possibly being cut into half, which makes it more difficult for families to visit. Today we have Gemma, and she's our special guest, and we will be talking to Gemma about what it's like as a mom who is unable to visit your son. Age doesn't matter in this. I'm sure she'll tell you how old he is. But really what we're talking about is his mental illness, what's going on with that, just slightly, but mainly about being a mom, not being able to see your son or daughter or loved one, husband, wife, father, sister, brother, mother, it doesn't matter. The visitation is our focal point today. So, Gemma, when was the last time you physically saw your son, hugged your son, sat with your son?
Okay, the last time I was able to hug my son was April 20th, 2018, this year, after a very long history of mental illness, since he is the chronic schizophrenic since 2001. His first Baker Act was done on April 2001. Once my mom passed and he developed schizophrenia, he could not deal with the grieving of my mom's death. That was a very important part in his life on a daily basis. So far, visitations are extremely important to me. First of all, my son his mind has never been coherent. He doesn't even know my cell phone number. His mind does not allow to coordinate telephone number to make.
So he would need assistance. If he was to call you, he would need assistance and someone willing to give him that assistance that understands his illness and his condition.
Correct. Most of the time, he has been in confinement because of his mental illness. Right now, at this moment...
Wait a minute. Mm-hmm. Back up, Gemma, because this is what concerns me. Isn't it really, really bad for schizophrenic to be in confinement like solitary?
Well, imagine somebody mentally ill and at the same time totally isolated, and at the same time not having relatives and people that can come and hug you and support you on a face-to-face, that you can feel that support. Mom is here for you. You know, it's okay. Right. That is detrimental for him, for his mental stability, and for me as a mother, it's also
How does that make
detrimental.
You feel? How do you feel, Gemma?
Well, I feel that my rights are, as a mother, as a parent, to support my son, are completely being violated.
Yes.
Because I want to be there for my son. It's not that I'm the mother that, okay, it's okay. No, it's not okay for me. It is really detrimental that I work 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. His visits are usually on a weekday, and it's on a 2-hour visit. How far
Why
he is right now?
Why only 2 hours?
Well, they only allow 2 hours because it has to have, supposedly under supervision, and he has to come only allow me 2 hours. It's not on a regular Saturday or Sunday. So how is the Department of Corrections going to handle this type of visit, not only for those that are allowed Saturdays and Sundays, for those that are mentally ill, severely mentally ill like my son, or all the mentally ill in the same condition that I am and in the same position that I am right now. It's only on a Friday. I have to request, it's in a special visit, and it has to be on the day and the time that they assign to you. How are they going to handle this? How are they going to help my son? How are they going to be calling me and allowing somebody to advocate and somebody to be there? This is your mom. Sometimes there has been times in his life that he had not even personally, when I have hugged him and kissed him, recognized me and said, he went bizarre and he says, "You're not my mother." Who the words, curses that he could mind at that moment, the voices will be telling him, that's nobody. And he has told me, "Who the heck are you? You're not my mother." Imagine through the way they're going to set it up, which we really, at this moment, we really don't know for the mentally ill. So it is really devastating because that is also affecting my job.
How
I have
far
to take
away
off.
is he from home? How far is he from you?
Right at this moment, he is at Santa Rosa, CI. I live in Miami, and we're talking about 9.5 to 10-hour drive without stopping.
Oh.
Okay. So I have to work an 8-hour shift. I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I leave at 4:30, so I will have to drive all night on a Thursday night, okay, for 9, 10, 11 hours to go see my son at Santa Rosa for 2 hours at this moment, whenever they allow me, because they, at this moment, he is in confinement. He is on a suicidal. Okay, so on top of all of this, I wish if I could know what would be the outcome, what is the plan B that they have, because I know they already have a plan A. What is the plan B that they have for the severely mentally ill that needs hugs, kisses, they need their mother there? I need welfare checks on my son because it is of the essence. To me, it is of the essence. I don't want nobody, you telling me, "Oh, Gemma, your son is doing good." I don't want Debbie to be telling me, "Gemma, your son is doing good." And I don't want Melissa to tell me, "Gemma, your son is doing." I want to see my son with my own 2 eyes, knowing that he is treated properly, adequately, with compassion and care. And how is the Department of Correction going to handle all of the above? You're putting my job in jeopardy. You're making me drive 12 hours, more or less, if I stop, because I need to stop. I can't drive 9.5, 10 hours straight. And you jeopardize and even my health condition to the extent that after working long hours, I have to drive straight 11 hours. So how are they going to handle all of this? I wish if I could have an answer. I wish if the person that makes the decision in this committee have already thought of all of this and have answers. Because I want to have an answer. I want to see my son. I want to hug my son and see my son. That's not a privilege like they call visits are privilege. No, it's not a privilege. Might be a privilege for the inmate, but it's a violation of my human rights as well. If you look at it at that point of view, because I do have the right to see my son, no matter where he's at, and you're cutting that from me.
Debbie?
Yeah.
I know you know more of the backstory on this than most of us here. I know bits and pieces, and Melissa knows. You've been working directly with her through your CBI organization, and Can I ask you some of the ridiculousness that you have seen trying to get her in contact with her son for someone to help him call his mother, that this is not right, and the sorts of things that I know you've been doing? Can you give us a little bit more info on that and what CBI is doing?
Sure. CBI has been contacting where he was. And, of course, first thing they say is, you don't have any rights to know anything because of the HIPAA law. I'm not asking you to answer anything. I have been on 3-ways with Miss Penna just as a backup, and the things that she had to go through, she called on Monday. And, of course, his classification officer is never available. And that's where it has to come from. So she might have to call back on Tuesday, and a lot of times it's on Wednesday, and she might get a visit on Friday. And this has been an ongoing thing since February 9th when I got involved with this. They never called her back. They harassed her. They had, once they found out I was on the phone, they wanted to try to hang up. I had to pull, myself out of it so they talked to her. They're just rude to her. Nobody can answer her questions. The doctors never called her back. The counselor. The only person that answered her was a counselor, and she couldn't really give her a whole lot of information because it had to come from his classification officer. And the classification officer, she left early for the day. She's in a meeting. We'll have her call you back. It never happened.
Her son is ill. She's been out for the whole entire week. She has. Ma'am, we do have another answers that they have given. Ma'am, we do have a life too, and we have relatives. And I absolutely understand they have relatives and they have a life. But I have a son that is in there, and who will be covering for you when you're not there? Well, that person supposedly was the head of classification, and she has no answers. And all I have to do is I can take a message and leave it for Mrs. So-and-so. And Mrs. So-and-so never returns a message. And Mrs. So-and-so is gone for today. They know my cell phone number because they do have a caller ID, and they already know that I've been calling, and they don't answer. That phone can ring 30, 40 times, and there's no answer. And at the end, there's no answering machines that I can leave a message. I've spoken to classifications, secretaries, the person supposedly covering for the classification, the person above that, and nobody has answered. Everything has to go through classification. Well, but his classification offers never returning calls. She's not answering. She's off for the whole entire week.
Wow.
She is on a training. This type of, and I had to use this method of a 3-way and heavy misstep in the back line because I've been going through this for 2.5 years. And whenever I will tell somebody, I have felt in my heart that she's lying. So I said, Ms. Sapp, I need your support. I need you to listen to this because I am it's upsetting. And sometimes they tell you, ma'am, I know your frustration. No, you don't know my frustration because my son is the one in there. You don't know my frustration. Do you have really the decency of telling a mother, I know your frustration? Well, my frustration comes from your lack and neglect of taking care of a job that you're getting paid for by taxpayers, that you're supposed to be there. There's supposedly to be a backup because whenever I miss one day of work on Friday to go visit my son, I need to have a responsibility in my job that I'm getting paid to do, and I need to have a backup. There's no backup there. Everything has to go through the classification, and she's never there. Then you go hire authorities, and, well, we're going to send an email, but that email on the assistant warden of the mental health unit was never responded. She never responds. Once I spoke to her, she gave me her direct line, and that line rings and rings like there's no end. Several times a day, not only once, several times a day. Then there's no voicemail that I can leave a message for her to return the call. Then I go higher authority to the warden of the facility, sending emails through a message. Can you please send a message via email that I have been calling since Monday, and today is Thursday, and I need to know if tomorrow morning I can go visit my son. I'm telling you, this has been as far since from Monday starting calling until Thursday morning. They have told me you have to call on Monday.
Are you there, Melissa?
Yes, I am.
I know that you gather information. I know you're an information source. You know a lot about what solitary confinement does to a mind. It doesn't matter the age. I know schizophrenia, it has something to do with issues going on as well. But when you take a person, a normal human being, and you put them in solitary confinement for 90 days, do you have an answer for what that does to the brain of any normal human being, let alone mentally ill and, depressed or what have you?
It can actually cause post-traumatic stress syndrome. And try and picture a very young child, probably 1.5, locked in a closet. This is child abuse, of course. And we all know what happens when the child grows up. This can cause schizophrenia. So it's compounding the problem. And I would like to say what the facility is doing to Christopher is preventing him from getting better. They are keeping him from being mentally stable, and they are preventing him from getting better. In fact, they're sending him into post-traumatic stress syndrome by doing this to him, and the results are not going to be good. There's going to be a lot of work to be done when he comes home. I'm sure he's very scared, and they are keeping him from getting better. They're making him worse. This is dehumanization.
I can add something to Ms. Jody?
Yes.
Okay. Also, there's another situation with his medication. He has been withdrawn from medication without, I am his guardian, and it's on paper, and supposedly they're supposed to be going on a committee. My son's medications has never been stable medication. If somebody's not doing good, 90% of his sentencing, he was sentenced to 10 years mandatory. He has done 9 years and 5 months. My son supposedly, God willing, and I know God will, he will be released December 20th this year. Christopher will be 32 years old this Sunday, June 3rd. He was born on June 3rd, 1986. So this coming, Sunday, I think is it Sunday the 3rd? June 3rd, he will be 32. He's been there since he's 22. 95% of his 9 years and 5 months, he has been in confinement, solitary confinement, due to his unstabilized mental condition. He was sitting in jail for 4.5 years waiting to be stabilized when he had been diagnosed in 2001, and he was mentally disabled by the state of Florida, schizophrenic, okay? So he sat in jail for 4.5 years waiting to be stabilized for them to say that Department of Corrections, once he was convicted, that he was stable at that time. It took them 4.5 years, 4 years and a half, to say he was mentally stable and to be convicted. After his conviction, my son, prior to that, he tried to commit suicide. After that, now at this point, my son is on a suicidal stage again. He's only 7 months away to be home, and he has never been stable. His medications, they get discontinued all of a sudden. I have never been notified when he has been transferred from one prison to the other, from one facility to the other. I have always found, because on a daily basis I check, okay, on my son. He has always been in close management, and that means on a secluded area. And whenever his 2-hour visit has been, 90% of his 2-hour visit has been non-contact too. Would they bring him shackled? Would they bring him handcuffed? And that has been 90% of his my contact visits. 90% of the few visits. There was a period of time for 1.5 years, almost 2 years, that was not allowed to see my son because he's not stable. He's not stable. He's never been stable. There was a period of 9 years.
Gemma, I don't mean to interrupt you, but let's pull this
back
around because we got several shows we can do with you on the core treatment and things going on. Debbie, I need to ask you regarding the up-and-coming May 31st visitation. What changes are they putting forth that they want to take place? What is this hearing about?
It's about them trying to cut the visit in the state of Florida to odd and even numbers of your loved ones' last 2 numbers of their DC number. If you have an even number, you go on the even day. If you got an odd number, you go on the odd day. And then they want to cut the visits 2 hours instead of Saturday and Sunday from 9 to 3, which is totally ridiculous. They're trying to say it's because of being short-staffed and contraband. Well, you can cut your visits. That mean contraband ain't going to get in there.
Right.
Contraband gets in there no matter, even if you got a 15-minute, that contraband is going to get in there if it's going to find a way. But we have found that 2.5% of inmates' loved ones bring in the contraband.
Right.
So where's the rest of it coming from?
Right.
But nobody wants to confess to that. They had a meeting March, I think, and in that meeting, they were saying that guards get patted down. Well, I've never once seen a guard or a kitchen worker or somebody that works in the church or whatever. Never, ever have I seen that. They walk right through the gate. They don't even come through the door where visitors go, where you have to go through the machine and the wand thing and all that.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even do that.
Now, what's it feel like for you when you don't get a visit, when visitations are canceled, or have your son's visitations ever been taken away? What is your experience with lack of visitation for you yourself as a mother, and how you feel?
Well, my son has a mental problem. He's bipolar. With a schizophrenic tendency, but I've got him on medication. I've got that straightened out. He's been doing really good for the last 2 years. You take a visit away from somebody, and especially a bipolar person, 1 minute he's okay, the 1 minute he's not, and he enjoys seeing his mother and his father. You take that away, it's going to get ugly. It really is going to get ugly, because then he'll refuse to take his medicine, and then he's going to act out.
Right.
Well,
so it's really important for Gemma's son and for your son to have those contact visits, just for mental health alone. And for your well-being, for your peace of mind as mothers, it's important. Speaking from my experience, I know that when I don't see my son, I feel a different way, and I feel negatively, and then I worry more. I couldn't imagine going as long periods as Gemma has without physically visiting with.
Something else to add to this, that it's really detrimental what I'm going to say, but it's so sad, and at the same, it's aggravating, because my visit, some of the visits, I have been denied many visits. And I do have proof and paperwork to the fact that Department of Corrections denied my contact or non-contact visit for 2 hours that I was going to have because they were understaffed. And I have proof, facts, and paper about this statement that I'm making.
Okay. So they're saying that they were short-staffed. Now,
they were
I'm sure that there
short-staffed
probably
and
is. But I'm sure not every day, and I'm sure not every weekend, and I'm sure when they're short-staffed, they eventually get staffed. And I don't think that they should be able to use that often because I see where they are overstaffed in places where my son has been. And they are guarding, but you've got, 2 and 3 groups of guards sitting around doing absolutely nothing. So if they're supposed to be walking around guarding during visitation, they're definitely not. They're conjugating and they're hanging out and they're visiting with each other. They do walk around every now and then, but not throughout. So where I've been, there's never been a short staff issue, and that's unfortunate.
How Department of Corrections, if there is a mentally ill like my son, that he has never ever in those 10 years been able to call me. I have never had a phone call from my son. Okay, now, how Department of Correction is going to handle this visitation if they need someone to help my son come up to the phone and call me, okay, because they're going to need a special guard or an advocate or someone to make this phone call when they have denied previously, when they have been contact visits. How are they going to handle this if they cut the visitation? They're going to need special people trained.
Right. This is what I want to do right now. I want to go ahead and call out. Florida is known for Daniel, and I don't know if you all are familiar with Daniel, but I'm pretty familiar. We've got PACE for girls and different places for mental health treatment. I'm calling out Daniel because I think Daniel needs to be helping individuals like your son. So I think that as a group we should schedule something where we all contact Daniel and ask them to come and help with situations like yours, Gemma, in the state of Florida.
Okay.
I don't know. What do you feel about that, Melissa? You think that that's an option? Daniel's a very well-known state-type run facility that is known for helping the mentally ill in Florida.
I think that's an excellent idea. I really do. By all means, let's try everything we can
to get help. We just need help. We need help.
Yes.
It's beyond the not having visits. It's beyond that in some situations like Gemma's, and that's a desperate situation that something somewhere has to give. It's gone on. He's going to be released soon. He needs to be in his scruples when he's released, and right now it seems as if he's being set up for failure.
Absolutely for failure.
And most definitely set up for failure.
And you see that in the
moment.
You see that in the recidivism, or however you say it. How do you say that word? You've used it before, Melissa.
Recidivism.
Yes.
Recidivism.
What?
Where did that come from? I can't even say it. It's like aluminum foil.
Recidivism.
Where'd that term come
from?
Recurrency.
For recurrency of falling back into prison.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, that's what it means. Recurrency of coming back to prison.
Wow.
Where did they come up with that word? That's one hard word to pronounce, I tell you.
A lawyer did it. No. May I just add one more point?
Yes, please.
I just want to point out that these things that we have been discussing tonight all contribute to a riot, not to mention an uprising as well. So
I agree.
The more we dehumanize these people, these individuals that are incarcerated, the bigger our problem's going to be. And the state might not care now, but they will if the prison is destroyed. Building a new one is expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, and being that we've had several locations having the riots. Now let's get into what's coming up. Debbie.
Another thing that I would like to add, I'm sorry for interrupting, another thing, mental health has been having cuts. So how are they going to handle the visitation with the cuts on the mental health?
Right.
I wonder
and that's going to be a whole new episode, Gemma, where we need to bring you back in
because
we can't cover everything in one show. But I do want to talk to Debbie regarding the rioting factor and the concerns with what's coming up with the anniversary and the, what is it, in August 21st? Is that it, Debbie?
And it runs from August the 21st to September or something. But it's some kind of big rally that they're going to have where all the inmates are going to sit down. They're not going to they're going to refuse not to work. They're not going to eat. They have a whole list of stuff of what they're just going to riot is exactly what they're going to do. And that is because they're saying they want more pay for what little work they do. I don't want to say little work, the work that they do. I don't know what kind of work they actually do, to tell you the truth.
They do everybody's work that they have to get paid on a regular salary.
I don't know what they do because my son's never been in a situation where he's actually worked. But it's called slavery, and I don't understand that because the way I look at it, if my son's making 40 cents an hour, good for him because that means it kept some of the money that I have to send, like for his food, for his clothing, for his, his shaving stuff, his deodorant.
So that's not all supplied.
For the hygiene.
Let's cover that. That is not all supplied appropriately for human living. So you have to supplement.
They get a roll of toilet paper for 1 week. 1 week.
And if they run out, they have to borrow, right?
If they run out, they either borrow it or and my son has told me they have taken like their old T-shirts and stuff and they use them as rags and then they throw them in the laundry and they get washed and they come back.
Oh, okay.
That's sad. That's statistic.
Yeah, I know that they're very creative. I do know that with as little as they do have. So you like me have to spend out of pocket, not just on phone calls, but you're paying for deodorant, you're paying for boots, tennis shoes, T-shirts, underwear, necessities.
Well, not anymore. We cannot even send any packages, secure packages. And we cannot
the packages have been discontinued because DOC has not renewed the contract.
Probably because drugs were coming in pretty heavily through that company, I wonder.
Well, with the cutbacks, DOC's decided to do cutbacks. What do you think that's going to create?
Well, where did most of the drugs come from? They said deliveries.
Yeah,
well, that's a huge delivery, too.
Your guards are having it delivered.
Oh,
and they are telling gangs like you buy this or you buy this, and then the guards like will give it to somebody else, and that means they get mad at each other and they start fighting, and that's how your riots begin, and that's exactly what's going to happen in Florida. Because number one, the cutbacks. Number two, you're messing with visitations. Number three, it's hot. It's already hot. They have no air conditioning. They're sweaty. They're miserable. And you got somebody going around and telling them they're no good and blah, blah, whatever they do because they harass them every day.
Correct.
And soon enough, these inmates get tired of this, and that's why they do the things they do because they've had it. So what happened in South Carolina is going to happen in Florida.
Have you had problems with the guards talking to you in a manner? I know that I read an article where a woman was there for the first time and she went in cheerful. She was going to visit her loved one and asked the guard how they were doing, and the guard pretty much shut her down and ordered her like she was, his
Me. I have had that problem.
Yeah.
with my
you,
son
Gemma?
Christopher. Yes, ma'am. This is Gemma. I had that problem with my son Christopher February 10th of this year, where my son was being brought over from the mental health unit to the a non-contact visit for 2 hours. And when he arrived, he came in shackles and handcuffed. And the officers that brought him over, when my son was inside that cage, because first they take your shackles, they put you inside the cage, and then through the little hole they have, he had to put his 2 hands so his handcuff could be removed, and sit in that little metal stool. And I was in the other side where I could hardly see him because it was so filthy, so dirty. It was horrific. And my son, out of his mind, he turned around. I had not even been able to say hi to him. He turned around and he said, "Officer, can I have a napkin?" And it would trigger me. It's like, napkin for what? I haven't even bought food. And I said, "What is it?" My son did not answer me. And then the officer gave him a napkin through the little space, and he started cleaning his ankles. And I said, "What is that, Chris?" He kept his mouth shut. And I said, "Chris, what is it, honey?" "Blood. That's blood." I went bizarre. And I went around, I knocked on the door, and I said, "Officer so-and-so, my son," he opened up the door, and he was cleaning the shackles in front of me out of my son's blood. That is torture for my son, and it was torture for me.
Oh, my
and I said, "You're not going to break me apart." And I called to speak to somebody before those 2 hours, and I had to go 3 times because I want someone with authority to come. They circled around me. And
wait a minute, Gemma. They circled around you, meaning multiple people?
They surrounded me. Yes, ma'am. There were 5 guards surrounded
me and my daughters. I had that happen to me at Calhoun.
Yes, ma'am. And I don't want to mention names, but I had
a
major in front of me. How did you feel in that
moment, Gemma? Can I ask you?
I felt at that moment that I was doing the wrong thing, that I was going to get arrested. I felt harassed. I felt degraded. I felt like I had lost all my rights. I felt so many emotions.
Did you feel like you were put in jail?
Yes, like I was the one in jail.
Did you fear?
Yes, I did fear. At that moment, I feared. But then when I looked at my son's ankles, yes, I did fear for my life. And thinking it was my son's ankle bleeding or my life, I didn't care. I said, I have to say what I have to say. And I stood for my son regardless of whatever, because when I told them, "Can you have my son at least on the flip-flops put on socks before putting the shackles? Look what you have done. I hope you take him to the medical department and put antibiotics there." He says, "Ma'am, he has socks in his cell." And I said, "I'm mentally ill severely like my son is, cannot even coordinate to order hygiene. My son has over $500 in his account that he cannot even coordinate either to write the paper and order hygiene or food. You tell me you cannot offer." He says, "Ma'am, my men don't do that."
Right.
That's like
because
I am sitting above you. I'm sitting above you, and I'm sitting above your son. Your son is an animal. That's what he meant to say.
Gemma.
Oh, yes.
That is a terrible, terrible thing, and I'm glad you were able to share that with us. I really appreciate that because I thought that it was isolated, that it occurred with me for making a complaint going to
I felt helpless because it was me surrounded by 5 guards, including a major and another gentleman with another white shirt, so that means it's another white shirt. So there were 2 white shirts, the major in front of me, next to the major, to the left of the major was another white shirt. Two others on my right-hand side.
They do that too because it works. I wonder how many more people, women like myself, when I had my two daughters with me, that were backed into a corner with 8 guards in a 10-by-10 room, while my son watched in through a window and couldn't do anything but stand there in shock and not know what's going on. So I wonder how many more Gemmas there are out there, and how many more Jodies there are.
That day, there was a couple there sitting all the way behind that area with her son that is also severely mentally ill, all the way to the back, and I was talking out loud so they could hear me, what I was saying, because they could say, you threatened me, you did this, you did that. So I was talking out loud so they could hear me, that I was no moment, no threat. I was just asking for my son's rights and humanity. Okay, and also I said, when I walked in here with 8:35 in the morning, when you brought the inmate, okay, it was like 9 o'clock. It's 11:02. I want you not to erase, not even a single minute of the footage, because I am requesting this footage on the camera since you walked the inmate in until you take him back.
Right.
And at that moment, they didn't even let me say goodbye to my son. They closed the contact visit area. One of the officers I went to say, let me say goodbye to my son, says, I'm sorry, ma'am. And he closed the door and he cut my visitation.
That is just awful. Melissa,
Jody?
have you in Arizona, I know you're in Arizona, and I hate to cut you off, Gemma. We've got a short period of time, and we're just trying to really get as much information out as possible.
Absolutely.
But I need Melissa to let us know, is there anything going on big like this with the visitation in Florida? What's going on in Arizona? Didn't you guys have a riot of some sort, or what's going on?
Yes. We had a racially motivated riot at Buckeye. And I want everyone to pay attention because they have a list, I believe, of 172 inmates which they're going to transfer elsewhere. And what this means to me is that these inmates are going to go to various prisons where they are going to be set up for racial fighting because they're troublemakers. That's what they do. They send them to other places, these troublemakers. I can guarantee you that the 172 that they're getting rid of were probably the instigators and the ones that started the riot, or they prevented help from getting there in a timely manner. So they are considered a high risk. And this means they're targets for anybody crooked. Okay? And I do believe that not all, but some of this racial fighting, we have been told that the guards are pitting them against each other. Now, I do want to just ask real quick, what is a white shirt in Florida? Here it's someone from the outside that the prison employs to work in the kitchen.
A white shirt means somebody with rank. Somebody with rank. In this case, it was a major, and probably an assistant to him or another major from another unit. A white shirt means someone with high rank, because he introduced himself and says, I'm Mayor so-and-so. And next to him, to his left, he was standing in front of me, that mayor. Next to his left was another white shirt, another someone. I know his name, but I don't know what title he has. Okay? Then next to him, there were two of them.
I wonder if the reason I'm asking, it's possible my son may not have given me accurate information, but he did report to me at one time that he was, in fact, having relations with a white shirt.
Well, a white shirt is somebody in the state of Florida with ranks. They use white shirts. It's either a warden, a major, somebody with ranks, are the white shirts here. When you see someone with white shirts, that is a rank they have there.
Well, yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they shouldn't be allowed to be doing that in prison anyway. But I wondered how it was possible for such a thing to happen.
Well, you would be amazed what things that happen.
Yes, interesting, fascinating. Okay, sorry, Jody.
No, you're fine. You're fine. That's fine.
Also, on the visitation. Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Also, on the visitation that I've had for 2 hours, contact or non-contact, they have cut it short. Because they start checking, let's say the visitation is 9 to 11, I always try to be there early. Sometimes it's like too early, the staff at the entrance. It's too early. It's only 15 minutes till 9. Your visitation is 9 to 11. But by the time my son is about 4 or 5 blocks to walk over here, well, at the time they brought him in, I checked on the clocks that they have over there. And they cut it short for half an hour. And I said, I'm sorry. You call someone with authority. It's 2 hours. You brought the inmate. I'm sorry, ma'am. It's 11 o'clock and you need to leave. Well, I'm really sorry, but you cut in my visitation short. And I drove 6 hours to make it up here. At that time, he was at this other facility. Now my son has been transferred and he's on suicidal at 11 hours from here. So, and they're still Department of Corrections cutting visitation from hugging and kissing. And how are they going to handle all of this? How are they going to handle, because prisoners need the support. Sometimes they are so frustrated in there, so harassed, and so humiliated that they look forward for the weekends to hug their families. And we support them and says, calm down, your time is shorter. And we could support them. We can make them ease out through this visitation. So what are they trying to do? This is an instigation of a rebellion. They make more rebellious.
And not only that, I want to point out with the hot and cold problem that we've got, the heating and the cooling. Here in Arizona this Sunday in Tucson, we're getting up to 107 degrees. And
wow.
They don't use air conditioning in the jails. They have it, but it only works in certain areas. The rest of the prison is cooled by what's known out here as a swamp cooler. So it's going to get extremely hot. If they cut visitation along with everything else that's going on, I don't even want to think about this summer.
Right, and it's already 100 there, and I know it's in its 80s here most of the time lately. Mm-hmm. It does drop down at nighttime, but we're getting into some hot weather. Debbie, do you want to add anything as far as the visitation? Because right now we need to really focus on people understanding how important it is to go to Tallahassee on the 31st at 8:30 a.m. to support the public and the need to keep visitation schedule intact.
Well, they really need to keep the visitation intact, as you can hear from Gemma and everybody else. It's not a good thing. And like they said, we're their support system. We're there guiding them on weekends. I know I've had many, many conversations with my son, what happened all week, and you have to calm him down. Even though he's on medication, Mom, I've seen this or this happened. I don't know what to do, blah, blah, blah. That's what we're there for. They cannot, like even when they call you on the phone, they can't talk because anything they say is used against them.
But I've seen emails from wardens I've seen it over the years, and I've seen in the writing on the walls that they have there how it's so important to support your incarcerated loved one,
right.
And they say that they push for the families to stick together and remain intact, but it seems like they're doing just the opposite of what they're putting on the writing and what they're emailing and what they've got on the walls of the prison.
Right. We can't go in there with a camera and show you what they have written on the wall. And it's sad because what they're saying on the wall and what they're doing is two different things. And I do believe they are putting us up for a riot in Florida. Overcrowding. They want to get rid of some of the people. This is the easy way for the government to do it.
Well, what do you think about Gemma's part, the story of Gemma, Debbie? What do you, or Melissa, if you have something, what do you think about this bully tactic that I thought was an isolated incident with myself and my son being called an animal?
No, it's not.
And being circled around.
Well, about the area on the contraband, too. I have names of officers.
Let's not go there. Let's not go there, Gemma, please.
Okay.
We can't go there. We don't need anybody threatening slander or anything. So let's keep that for something else, and we'll figure out a way to do it that is not calling anyone out.
CBI wants to investigate. CBI wants to bring this all down. We want to bring it down. What is going on is it's about justice. That is the bottom line. It's justice. And
justice for all.
Justice for all. That's what the Constitution says. We the people.
Exactly.
We this. We that. Well, like I said before, the government works for us. We don't work for them. And for years it's been we're working for them. And now we're trying to change it around. It's going to be a slow way to do it. But what Department of Corrections is doing is totally wrong. But yet, society has let it happen. Society has let this happen. And now,
I think there's so many people out there, Debbie, because I was one of them years ago when my nephew wrote me from prison in Iowa, I believe, either Illinois or Iowa. When he wrote me, I would write him back, but I never really got too involved as far as what went on the inside and what he was dealing with and the hardship of it all. I wasn't present because I was so far away. And now where I'm present and I'm nearby, within a radius, and it's my son now, it's mind-blowing what I have witnessed, and I literally think I'm in a nightmare, and I'm actually dreaming it sometimes, or I'm in a really bad flick that I can't get out of.
You feel like you feel like you're in the twilight zone, that this is not really happening.
Well,
but it is
at this
happening,
point,
and that's the sad part about it, and we need to band together and stop it before it goes too far. And what
I think it has gone too far. I think that story is too far. I think
Department of Corrections, being our relatives, a loved one, under the Department of Correction, they would say they belong to us. But I don't belong to Department of Corrections, and I have my rights as a parent.
Hey, we're taxpayers. We pay their...
Okay, so I don't belong to them.
I think families and loved ones, we might have 97,000 inmates in the state of Florida. Do you know your numbers in Arizona, Melissa? We've got about 97,000, I think. Is that correct? Or is it 197? Debbie?
I think it's 197.
Okay.
Yeah, that would sound about right. We're up there, too. I'm not sure the exact number, but, we're up there, too.
Well, when you have multiple family members, my son gets multiple family members that come from upstate and from all over the place to visit him when they're capable of it, plus family that's close by is not small. So if I'm looking at many families with one or more people, I'm looking at we outnumber them. But yet we're the ones that are oppressed and put in fear, like we are being treated like criminals as well.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I feel like my rights are being violated. I am on the other side of the bar, but those bars are not going to stop the love that I feel for my son. And I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to fight for it until they can prove me wrong. And they are the ones that are wrong. Another thing, it's very important to let Department of Corrections know that people are governors today that will try to run for Senate tomorrow, and this is a voting year.
Yes.
So it is, very important. It's a reminder.
Very important.
to let them know, Department of Corrections, cut the visits because I'm hitting the streets. And I will run for everybody that is trying to cut the visits. Anybody's. I'm ready to go outside with pamphlets and pass it around because it's election year, guys. Department of Correction, it's elections year. And I'm hitting the streets because you're not going to stop me from seeing and hugging
we got
my
moms
son.
on a mission, right, Debbie?
Amen.
Yes, Melissa?
That's right.
Oh, yeah, we're definitely on a mission.
Absolutely.
I'm going to tell you what, it's got to stop. And like Gemma says, it's election year. If the people would get off their butts, it's election year, we could win this battle. We could win this battle.
I want to make a point. I really do. If new prisons have to be built because of an uprising, which happened twice in New Mexico with the Santa Fe pen, okay, the governor was not reelected either time, suffice it to say.
Right.
People
Good
voted
point.
then. They got up and they voted. Taxpayers were outraged.
Yep. That's
Okay,
well,
we're
cutting
close to time.
It's
and
funny
I need
because
to tie
they're
this
cutting,
up, ladies.
Yeah,
Ladies, I need
they're
to
trying
tie this
to
up.
cut. Sure.
I need to tie this up. I would like to send a special thanks to Gemma for coming on and sharing her
You're
story.
very
We
welcome.
definitely need to have you come back again. Of course, we only have a limited time, and we've got so many issues out there. And if you're listening, we need help. We need help with the mental health, obviously. We need help with the visitations because it's a trickle effect. It could turn out to happen in your state. Thank you, Melissa and Debbie, for coming on again. And let's spill the tea on what's really going on behind the walls with Dawn and continue to come back and continue to try and let our voices be heard for the voiceless who are behind those walls. And Gemma, I'm going to keep you and your son Chris in my prayers. I will be putting out on our mom's page information about Christopher so that you can read Christopher's story. It's heartbreaking. You need to know about Chris. If you don't know anything about Department of Corrections or you don't know anything about what's going on behind the walls to our loved ones, to someone's son, to someone's father, look for Gemma's story with Chris on our mom's page and really pay attention in Arizona on the page in Arizona with CBI and Melissa. If you can't find us, Melissa, what's your Facebook group?
It is called Arizona CBI or AVCBI is how you
And that
find
you
it.
have to request to join, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then you have a public page, which is also available?
Yes.
Yes.
And I will be setting up my website next month, so for Arizona.
Okay, and then Debbie, the best way to reach you if you need to help someone, if they need somebody to rally for them like you do for Gemma with the work you do with CBI and with your assistant, what's the best way for them to reach you?
They contact me on my cell. I'm on my cell 24/7. My cell number is 352-277-9090.
If you need help,
anybody.
If you need help and you need someone to advocate for you, that is what CBI is for. We want to unite all of our groups. Everybody has a cause. If it's related to what's going on behind the walls and for the incarcerated, for mass incarceration, or just injustice in the system with corruption and that sort of thing, CBI is forming and growing and uniting. And so united we stand, divided we fall. I would like to thank listeners, and I want to thank Dawn behind the walls for having us back again. Hope to be back on soon. Ladies, I appreciate your time for getting the word out there. And Gemma, keep on doing what you're doing because you love your son, and it is very clear that you are suffering, and I am very sorry for your suffering. And anyone who suffers as severely as you do, I will keep you in my prayers. Debbie, Melissa, love you guys. Love everybody.
Debbie, I would like to thank CBI for all the job and the continuous advocacy and support that Ms. Debbie's always in CBI, and Melissa and you as well. Thank you all for the support that I've been receiving.
Oh, you're welcome, Gemma, and thank you. We'll get information out on the Mom's page. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Have a good night.
Have a blessed evening. Bye-bye.